Hello, everyone. Ham. Jeff is up somewhere where he isn't supposed to be. Well, I mean, that's kind of his thing, I suppose. So, it's Friday. And, I feel like I need to weigh in on something that happened yesterday. So, Season 2.5 dropped. Or, not, it hasn't dropped, but the notes, the reveal videos, and all that stuff dropped. And part of what is, part of it that has several characters, people in a... Some into a tizzy, I think some may be into just a concern, is they're changing kind of how Jeff works. It's not a full rework, because his kit is still basically the same. They're just making some adjustments to it. And, so, folks are, as, I don't know if it's just, you're just doing it for the sake of, pausing, just overreacting for the sake of content and views and whatnot, or if they are legit upset. Unfortunately, it is sometimes hard to tell with content creators. But I have been hearing a lot of people that's saying that the joke that this sounds like is that Jeff is going to be dead with the changes. And like everything I'm seeing has been saying, like, okay, he's dead, he's been taken out in the back, his shot, you've killed my son. But yes, I'm here to say I don't think Jeff is dead. And being the theory crafter and overthinker that I am, I want to try and prove that with number. So unfortunately, I have number for you, for everybody, along with just kind of showing where my thoughts are on this. I already have this already pulled up. This is the patch notes that came out yesterday. It's showing basically how Jeff is going to change. And what's funny is one of the videos that I saw from one of the content creators who's a Jeff one who's been doing kind of Jeff one tricking through comp and having fun. Very delightful person, but they were very upset about what they assumed was happening to Jeff. And the idea that DPS Jeff is dead, and they're nerfing his healing on top of that to make him basically worse at that as well. So it's like, where is he supposed to go? Gone, you've ruined my boy, that sort of thing. And while he did say that he wanted to wait and see the numbers and what all that is like, he did seem very upset, which I can understand. For those who have not been in our streams before, like back when I played Dead by Daylight, I used to be a Death Slinger main back when quick scoping, and he could quick scope. And I lived through that change where they gave a delay for his scoping in, and also on top of that increased his terror radius. That basically made, like, the quick scoping I didn't care about, but they added in the whole increased terror radius that he did need on top of that, which kind of ruined my whole idea of just him actually sneaking around and hunting and catching you off guard. And they got rid of that. So I'm speaking from as someone who's had those sort of situations happen before, and I can understand the frustration and the concern. So, as a Jeff main, a self-proclaimed Jeff main, I kind of wanted to touch on some things here. He is going to be weaker. I'm not gonna go and say that he's not gonna be hindered. But I think it's just more a matter of his playstyle is going to need to adjust a little bit. I feel like he's going to be still pretty solid at being the goofy little backline harasser that he has been. But I'll go through those heat spike. So I guess the first part we want to talk about here is the first bullet point, which is the new effect of Joyful Splash. It deals 70 damage a second and can heal through other allies and enemies. Has damage fall off and reduces healing from 530 to 130. So he lost 20 healing. Now, one thing that I think is kind of weird about them saying this, and I'm kind of going to show this off here in the game. That's why I'm in game. I'm sitting here in the training ground. They're mentioning how he'll be able to heal through allies. He can still do that. This is not a new thing. I don't know, like, well, I don't know if people didn't know that, like, it's weird for them to mention that when this is a thing he can do. But, obviously I can't show it off here, but if I was doing this to the enemy, or doing this, no, hold on a second, through an ally, I'll be healing an ally and damaging an enemy. Now, when you think about that, like, again, in comparisons to other characters, that's making me think of Sue. I don't think she can hit from here, but yeah. It's basically that, is the feeling I'm getting. But remember, Jeff has insane range. So you'll be able to be doing that from Jeff's weird angles, healing an ally and damaging enemies at the same time. Now, the thing to keep in mind here, and let's get back to the screen. I don't have like quick buttons for this, so I actually have to keep pushing stuff here. So, point to remember here is that it's doing 70 damage a second. I'm gonna throw some again, here's some fun numbers for you. That is, so, 70 damage a second. You got Jeff. Maybe horrible handwriting. He's doing 70. Cloak does 75. And Wanda does 80 a second. This is so giving you, like, his stream damage is, like, just damage-wise, is not bad. It is 10 damage a second lower than Wanda, who's a DPS, and 5 lower than Cloak, who has to be in his attack form and not being able to heal. Jeff is doing near Cloak levels of damage while still being able to, if there's allies in between you and who you're hitting, healing them at 130. 130 damage, 130 healing. That's just on the damage side. Ooh. We'll keep the damage on that side. Over here, we're going to talk about the healing. I mentioned... So, he's doing, you know... Jeff again here. Jeff is doing 130. You know, this is probably really boring for people. That is true, Powerlord. He does have the catch that he does have to reload and he does have to aim. But there's some... I'm feeling that he's emerging. His kit now is going to be emerging of a couple different characters. And right now, I'm kind of thinking about how he's going to work with Sue. And I'm going to get the Sue, but I want to get this information over here. Now, as I mentioned, I feel like he's going to be like a long-range Sue. Sue is that basically does 40 heal each way every half second. So that's if you're hitting your allies, that's 40 times 2 for 80, and then again firing every half second times 2 is 160. But that has limited range. Jeff can be doing it from the other side of the arena at about the same speed. An interesting thing to think about. And Sue over here for her damage is doing... Yes, that is true. Well, yes, her shield also heals. I'm talking about just comparing M1s at the moment. Hers, again, is 20 damage times 2 times 2. So she's also doing about 80 damage to a target every second, give or take. So no hit. That's kind of my thoughts on the initial baseline that I'm thinking about here. So his damage is still going to be very high at 70 a second for using his M1, and still doing very solid healing to whoever he's healing. Like, almost near Sue levels of healing. Like, obviously it was closer to Sue levels of healing before because it's 150. Of basically being able to do a Sue-style, like, a Sue-like style attack, but rather than Sue having to be, you know... Drop. I really need to have better buttons for this. Rather than having to be, you know, this close to doing it, you'll be able to be doing that from all the way, you know, back here. So, long-range Sue. I love how I just have my numbers up here, like, and it's all, they make it look weird like this. So, I feel like, yes, also, the next bit to keep in mind is his spit shot. Getting back to that, you can see here that is going to be doing an increase to its increase to its spell damage is 45. So his direct hit is 25 plus 45. That's 70 damage. So even his basic shot, those little shots are doing about the same damage for both his stream. But this is more instant damage. Now, who's a character that you can, again, and I have her name here. There's another character who has she can do sustained damage for a long time, damage per second, and has a way to throw in some damage while she's doing it. And I feel like the idea is his new attack style, rather than just holding down M2, is going to be akin to how you play Emma. So when you're fighting, you're basically going... So rather than just doing damage this way, you're going to be using your mainstream and then adding in burst with your spits. That's how I feel how his damage is going to be working. You know, this is all probably very boring for me throwing out all these numbers and whatnot, but this is the sort of thing that I like to kind of delve into sometimes. It gets into my head and I want to share my thoughts. Like, now the funny thing is, similarly, I actually I've looked up a lot of weird stuff here to think about this. The 25, 45, and 70. This is the Jeff M2. Jeff M2. Wanda's M2 is 40 and 40. For 80. And that has me thinking, basically, the idea that he's basically a weird... His new playstyle, his kit is Sue-like and Wanda-like. And that's going to be kind of how you're going to be... all these numbers over my head. I'm thinking so much about numbers. Now, the thing that you have to also keep in mind, I think, is a lot of people are talking about the reduction to his healing. His stream healing is very often, again, like the high level Jeff players and stuff. From what I've seen and whatnot, they are rarely using that heal much anyway, other than to kind of build charge. That's why they play in triple heal combos. But getting back to the kind of the mouse too, the other thing to keep in mind here is this is a 3 second per charge. Oh, we should probably go back to the brush. 3 charges at 3 seconds per charge. He fires about 1.75 shots a second. So he's basically firing his, if he's firing all 3 shots, in about 2.5 seconds. So, just doing some quick math, that means in 3 shots, if he's landing all 3 hits, that's 210 damage. You put in half a second of stream damage. That's about, I'm assuming it's ticking every tenth of a second, like the other damage over times. Decent tracking. That's 35. That's gonna put you at 245, just shy of killing any of the squishies. But keep in mind is, again, that's how much damage is happening in 3 seconds. So 200 in 3 seconds. Because the recharge, by the time you have hit that 24 for 25, you're going to have your first shot back. You get another 70. This is talking like perfect accuracy, I'm talking high skilled players. 315 damage. That's taking out all healers and some of the higher health, higher health DPS over 3 seconds, barring healing, of course. So, like, people are saying that DPS Jeff is dead. I don't think he is. He is going to be weaker. Again, the biggest thing, the biggest hit to him is the loss to him losing the Luna Snow team up. That's going to be one of the big ones, because that does boost his damage a lot. And you always kind of wanted to have him, but he could run without it pretty well. And his overall damage is going to be a bit lower, because once he's out of those 3 shots, once he's without his right clicks, he's only doing 70 damage a second, rather than, what's that, about, 210 every 2 seconds. So, this every, take that 245, or, oh, hold on. Sorry, I'm not doing some additional math that I didn't think about in my head, but, so you're 210 over a second and a half. So, the third, well. I'm screwing up the math. The point is that you're doing over 70 a second with the shots. A little bit over with your right clicks. So his damage is going down, but not by a significant amount. So that side of Jeff, I think, is going to be fine. I'm moving Jeff away from the gunshots, and that's not just sitting in the background and bothering everyone else like it is bothering me. Yep, see, Jeff approves of it. Now, I think the big problem people are having, the issue is his self-sustain. So, this doesn't matter because... Let my color go back to... I want it green. For healing, none of this matters. None of this matters. It's all basically this stuff here that is the problem for his sustain for himself. The fact that he can't bubble burst himself to full really keep his health very high at all times through popping a bubble and going under, and the regen of the swim. The swim heal is getting nerfed. and the bubble is going to be healed over time. So he's going to have to be kind of, rather than just being back and full, he's going to have to be more evasive. So rather than just be like, you know, rather than just, you know, being able to kind of sit here, pop up, and do that, and, you know, be back at full, and survive things for, you know, very easily for a while, he's going to have to actually avoid damage, which he can already kind of do with his smaller hitbox, and be more, you know, aware of himself. You have to have better gauging of going, okay, I'm in a bad place. They're coming at me. Since I'm not going to be able to burst heal myself, I'm being chased down. I need to run. And back off, disengage. You need to get out. You have to play him more like a lot of the other dive characters because you don't have the instant self-sustain that he currently has. And honestly, I think that's kind of fine. I know it sucks for people who like being able to live through whatever because of his ability to just kind of exist on his own. But people had the same issue with Cap. Cap being able to jump around and survive forever without dying, without any aid from his allies, and then just jump away. And he's been getting the health nerf bat over and over again. He's getting his shield health reduced. He's getting his shield recovery time reduced. All this green wiggle on the screen is probably not helping things. So I'm kind of fine. Personally, I am fine with it. It just means more often, you cannot be off on your own. You do need to participate more with your team. And I know that sucks, since kind of, especially in the lower, you know, ranks, Jeff can kind of go off and live on his own and do his own thing. And that's going away. He's going to have to interact with his team and participate in the hero, in the team-based hero, the team part of the team-based hero shooter. So come back to your team, you know, rest up, get your stuff back, head off on a flank again, rather than just be, you know, your own little one-man shark army. So they've actually updated this thing since I last looked at it. Because I was going to mention this bit here, and I'll get back to it, but I did not see this. They're actually making his ult cost more. Though that could be a balancing factor due to the fact that he's going to be getting way more energy from his doing damage along with healing. But like, he's healing an ally and damaging an ally, he's going to get his ult quick. So that may be a necessary balance to keep him from having his, you know, his ultimate every fight. So maybe this is fine. And so the other thing I think that people are kind of sleeping on, I'm actually going to use this arrow that I already have because I've already drawn an arrow. I think people are not realizing this. His above ground survivability, his above water survivability is going to be better because he's taking 20% less damage from being shot in his big old noggin. I'm not sure how much of a difference that's going to be, but I do always hated that, you know, you're out for a fraction of too long, you can be dropped from full health by a Hawkeye. Because he just, you know, sends like a half charge, 2/3 charge arrow into your dome, you're dead. Even through the 50% crit damage reduction. It going up to 70 means that he might be able to survive those. Now, like, what I would love to make it kind of bounce a bit more because he's going to have so much slower healing. I would love things like maybe his team up with Storm had him as the anchor. Oh, the whole thing is, I think he'll still get stomped if he gets shot in the back. Well, that's the whole thing. I think the idea is, because remember, wrong thing. That crit damage is 200%. I don't think the idea is that his passive makes crits, because if the 50% is 50% of 200, that would make it back to normal damage. Which I don't think it's going to do. So yeah. So it's not like he's going to be taking less damage. So this is not going to be a situation of, this is the 50%. The new change is not going to drop it to 70% of that and make it like, no, that, and he's getting shot in the head, he's taking like, what, 80% regular damage, so he takes less damage than normal from being shot in the head? I don't think that's how that works. I don't think that's what we're looking at here. I think what they're saying is, Jeff takes 150% crit damage. And with this change, his headshots are going to be 130%. I think that's what's happening. So for your TF2 fans out there, it's micro crits. Because I think micro crits in TF2 were like 125% damage? Like if you got hit with a Jirade or like a Mad Milk or whatever, or the Fan of War. I think that's basically what's going to be happening. Instead of just, he's down to taking mini crits instead of, half crits. That is going to, boost his survivability. I think. That's my thought. At least to some degree. I would love if he was a 275 healer. A 275 strategist. Since he's, if he's going to be off on his own, they're going to be kind of limiting his ways to recover his health, and having a bit more health to start off with, I feel like would help. I feel like that's what the damage reduction is supposed to do instead. Is that they're raising his crit damage so that he's a little bit more survivable that way. And there's nothing saying that mid through this 2.5 they don't make some adjustments to some of these numbers. That's kind of my whole shtick here, and my whole idea here is so. And I'm gonna still play him. And maybe he is gonna be leagues worse competitive wise. And the one tricks are not gonna be able to be as lethal as they always have been. But I feel like it's less because he's doing less damage, and more that he has less survivability and he has to play safe. He has to be able to go, okay, I have a charge time on how long I can swim. I cannot run them forever. I need to actually get away. I need to escape sooner so that I already have a head start if they chase me. I feel like that is what's going to be tripping up the DPS Jeff players. And it's going to take some time, and it's going to take some learning, but I feel like once people get used to his his new style of the way he can, his almost, I feel like it's gonna be a Wanda style, I would have him dead, like your main flurry, if you're gonna throw everything, would be 1, 2, 3, 4. And already, even with just the spits, that's enough to get rid of a Galactabot. So. 1, 2, 3, space, and pause 4. But I think rather than pause, you're gonna have that little extra bit of water. Again, play him like a Wanda that has to aim a bit more. I feel like that's how his DPS is going to work. And I feel like people are going to be expecting him to be not doing, like, being, hitting like a limp noodle because they think he's dead with only having 3 of these. And I think people are going to be horribly surprised when he's still doing about the same amount of damage. Also, keep in mind how easy it is to do this versus, you know, on a moving target than doing this. Which I think is also going to mean he's low-key going to be better against higher mobility targets and flyers. Because he can be doing this and basically, you know, chipping down characters like Storm, doing a lot of additional damage to characters like Storm, Johnny, Iron Man, and Ultron. Yeah, it's kind of thing. Yeah, he's going to be. Well, I mean, kind of. Your only real, like, if you can't aim particularly well, your only, you know, or you know, your accuracy, you're not confident in your aim. Your only other really good healer for hitting flyers is Cloak and Dagger. This is giving another relatively easy way for a support to deal with and to try to help attack enemy flyers without, you know, being like, you know, a Mantis or an Atom or a Luna that is just, you know, perfect accuracy, just dinging them in the face. Yeah. Also, there's the fun idea that this is, you know, if this makes Jeff that much better than taking out flyers, Jeff putting out a torch effectively by spraying him until he falls down is kind of funny. But so much water on him, you put his fire out. So I feel like, again, his like just kind of, again, because I keep like to repeat myself, but the idea is his damage is going to be less, but I think it's more from losing the Luna team up. The difference between him damaging like this and doing this I think is going to be, you know, negligible in damage. It will be lower, but otherwise it's going to be negligible. So that part of the DPS Jeff is still going to be great. It's still going to do good, because especially, you're going to be in the backline, you're going after the squishies. And now the funny thing is, I heard some people complaining, it's like, well, okay, this means because now that, you know, enemies will be able to block your stream, they can keep you from healing your allies by just getting in the way. No, I mean, smart Magnetos and Emmas and Stranges were going to be doing that anyway. But if you're playing a flank Jeff, you're not going to be, you know, here. This is not the position you're going to be healing from, where they'll just, you know, they can, you know, run in front of the tank and cut themselves off and put themselves, like, here to block your healing. You're going to be over here on a completely off angle going... So rather than him being here, where he's still in a good line of sight of his team, he may have to try to block you. He's going to be, like, here. He's going to be off in a weird angle, trying to put himself in a way to block you if he wants to dedicate to doing that. And yeah, no, there's also, yeah, if you're in the back, it also have to get in your back line to block you, or your tank is so far forward that the enemy is cutting him off, which is kind of, you know, either that means you're playing too far back, or your tank is playing too far forward. So that's a positioning issue more than an issue of the healing beam. Also, I think it's going to be, you're going to be wanting to also be paying more attention to using your bubbles, since you only have 3 of those. Is you have to remember that when you throw your bubble on someone, even if it's not going to have that big burst of healing anymore, you still heal more than you normally do when they've been hit with the bubble. Because, yeah, granting them a healing boost along with a movement boost. So you actually, the way you want to be healing with, if you're going to be sitting here and doing this, is not just do this. You're doing, like, actually, if you watch the Tweaks video, you do that. There you go. That's all you really need. I think that's going to be how it's going to shake out. Yeah, well, actually, the funny thing is, the proper way to the original way to play Jeff, DPS Jeff, is to, when you're like using your heals to stay alive, you actually do want to aim down so you pop the bubble on yourself. And I feel like that's still going to be a useful tech to use for Jeff. It's just, rather than being burst healed the full, you're going to be healing over time. So you have to make sure that, hey, I can't heal myself back to full anymore. I don't have that instant sustain. I have to be playing smarter and be playing safer. So when, like, normally I think if someone was going to try and retreat and run at quarter health, maybe they want to start running at half health. Also, the other thing to keep in mind is that the bubble is not going to have the knockback for enemies anymore. But this is. So you'll have to remember that for things like if you want to stop a Wolverine that's diving at you, because you could used to be able to just do this, or, you know, kind of drop a bubble behind you. So you got, when you got grabbed, you knock him off. You actually, it's now going to probably be a skill shot where you need to, as he's coming in, shoot him in the face. So that's a thing you may want to keep in mind. So Wolverine may have a bit of a better play against you, but it also means that rather than spend a heal to save an ally who's being dove by a Wolverine, the Wolverine lands on your friend. Go, get off. I kind of segued off of thing because I just remembered that bit. I think I covered kind of everything I was thinking about regarding this. Yeah. But yeah, the funny thing is, yeah, I feel like he's going to play effectively like a dive Wanda. A dive healing Wanda. And all the benefits that come off of that, including being better against high mobility characters and flyers. So don't sleep on Jeff in 2.5. He may not be as strong, but I don't think he's not dead as everyone seems to be decrying. I'm still gonna be playing him. And of course, as I said, all these numbers may not be final. Again, they may do during mid-season. They may tweak those numbers, so maybe his spit will do more damage. Maybe they'll return some of his healing potential back. The funny thing is, I was thinking is maybe they reduced the healing he was doing because he can pierce through allies and heal allies now. But that's already been a thing, so I really don't know why they lowered his stream healing. But again, the funny thing is, like, if you're playing a DPS Jeff, most of the time you're not near your team, so doing this isn't happening as often as you think. At least for me, very frequently, a lot of my healing was just doing this, to throwing out bubbles to heal your teammates and burst them back up, and yes, or leaving more bubbles around for them to grab, which unfortunately is going to be a strategy that won't work much anymore. But I've tried leave bubbles around for allies, and I see people just run into them anyway when they're at full health, just because they want to run faster while they're waiting for match to start. So, for some may not even notice a difference. Slightly less damage, a bit less healing. You're going to be wanting to play with the bubble hit into heal if you're going to be healing, which is a thing that, you know, he already does, and that you're being kind of expected to use it more. Better against flyers and high mobility targets, because there's a Spider-Man flying away, you can go, no, get back here. Instead of just trying to land a single shot on him, you just go, power wash after him. Maybe get some chip damage in on him, and that could be enough to finish him off. Or if he dives you, he's right in your face, you can go him with the spit point blank and knock him out of his combo on you. And Spider-Man's gonna be less of a problem because now he's not gonna have the full delete button since he's not gonna have the Venom team up anymore. So that's gonna be a positive. So I just feel like it just means hitting Jeff's skill ceiling is going to require a bit more skill, but in return, also just playing him and getting both healing and doing damage as a, low difficulty healer is going to be easier. So he's gonna be, at the same time, more accessible, especially in doing damage. Even if they're sitting in the back and just heal botting, they'll be doing more damage than they probably would have been doing otherwise. So they'll be putting more benefits that way. And then the higher skill Jeffs are going to be going around doing about the same amount of damage, and just the only trade-off is, like Cap, they can't be just running forever and living forever, which I feel like is a perfectly fine trade-off, because even as a Jeff enjoyer, I do know how much it sucks to have an enemy Jeff who just lives in your backline and never dies. I get enough of that with Cap. I also don't need it with Jeff. So I can completely understand it, and this is coming from a Jeff main. I'm not saying the best Jeff main, but I do consider myself a Jeff main.
Double kill.
So, Jeff, in 2.5, not dead. Bit weaker, but not as weak as you think he's going to be. And he's getting Sharknado, which I think is a win in its own right. And also, the funny thing is, if you're playing him with a dive comp or a brawl comp, you'll be literally could be sitting behind, if you're diving someone together and you have them both your diving, you'd be healing your dive ally and damaging your dive target at the same time. So might actually help for more help with coordinated play and sustain of your teammate who's diving with you. We'll see. Again, this is me throwing numbers, this is me throwing crafting and having thoughts, which should surprise no one. I have those a lot. They tend to ramble and go in circles and may not go anywhere. But I don't think things are going to be as bad for Jeff as everyone seems to be screaming. He's just not a one-man army anymore. He has to participate a little bit more with his team in the team-based hero shooter, and I feel like that's perfectly reasonable. Because what's funny, and I think I mentioned this somewhere, that there was someone did a tier list of characters in high rank and low rank comp, and they put Jeff in low rank comp into his own bracket because he was basically playing his own game. And I think at higher ranks, he is still kind of doing that. Rather than playing as, it's, Team A versus Team B. It's Team A versus Team B, and then also against Jeff, who's also there, and he's just kind of playing his own game. And yeah, the fun thing is, I think that the Jeff NATO is going to be very funny, because I do think it extends. They are not, and someone else pointed this out, and I'm very curious how it's going to work. How is it going to work with Johnny? If you're running Johnny, Storm, and Jeff, because they're not getting rid of the Johnny Storm team up, and both the Johnny team up and the Jeff team up extend timers. Yeah, so we're gonna have a burning Jeff tornado, or is it a situation where you can make, take how long is Storm's ult? 7. Let's go with 7 seconds. 7 plus another 7 from the fire tornado plus another 3 or so from the Jeff ult. That's a 17-second long Storm ult with extra damage. The never-ending Storm. The eternal Storm Beyblade could be in our future. And I'm kind of looking forward to that. I'm curious if that's going to be a thing that's actually going to happen. And, you know, if you extend it, my idea is, I feel like how it would work is because I guess the big problem, the only thing is, sadly, is that it seems like the enemies get spat out. Jeff drops and the enemies get spat out right at the end of the tornado. So Storm is not as good at getting to a ledge to shoot someone off, but through the extra damage of the Jeff ult doing to the tornado plus the extra damage she's going to be dealing anyway, those things may be dead, and then you either throw them out of position, they're way out of the way to be picked up, you throw them into your team, or if you just happen to be close enough to an edge, maybe you can get a cheeky environment. And then the Jeff Venom team up, I feel like is actually going to be, I feel like might be kind of the more meh one. Unless you're diving in as a squad with him, or you're running him in a brawl comp, which I think is what he's due. I could see, like, if you want to run a triple support brawl comp, you have Sue, you have Jeff, and you have another good, you know, group healer, like maybe like an Adam Warlock, or, you know, I guess because she's still amazing. A Luna. Why not? And then, remember those numbers I was showing you about how much healing that Sue was doing to a clumped up group? Add Jeff's healing on top of that. And I could see, like, even a Moon Knight just not being able to punch through that death ball. But yeah, that's kind of, again, I think I was going to wrap up like 3 different times, but I keep, you know, having ideas. Apologies for that. I may actually, you know, just clip this entire section and put it up on YouTube too, just see if other people have thoughts on it. Or maybe get yelled at in the comments. We'll see. But that's kind of how I feel it's going to go. Jeff is not going to be as bad as ruined as people think he is. He's still going to be doing Jeff things. Just you have to play him a bit safer, and his damage is going to be a little bit less. That's kind of it. That's all. It's not as bad as everyone is thinking it is. And if it does end up being worse than we expect, hopefully NetEase during, you know, the halfway season will go, okay, let's tweak some of his numbers. Maybe they'll make it... Could you imagine him doing as much damage with this stream as Wanda's M1? How horrifying that would be. Or boosting up his healing so if they were expecting him to play in the back line behind a death ball, that he can, you know, serve as a pretty solid secondary healer to someone like Sue. But I feel like he's still going to be just your basic, pretty solid choice as your third support in a triple support comp.